Yes. Yes, ma'am, let us start, ma'am.
Okay, can start.
Yes.
One of the
Okay, good evening, dear
participants
participants.
on the video, Fasal from Wayanad.
Dear participants, yeah, kindly mute your voice and video, please.
Wayanad.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening, one and all. Let us start our two-day national level webinar. I am Dr. Sangeeta, HOD of English, PG Department, Thiruvalluvar University, Constituent College, Kallakurichi. So far, we have conducted some nearing 40 webinars, and this is our 42nd national level webinar, and I feel immensely honored to be an organizer in before you, and I thank our respected honorable vice chancellor Professor S Thamare Chelvi ma'am, and our respected registrar Professor Syed Safi sir, and all our higher authorities of our university for allowing us to conduct such webinars in this pandemic during the pandemic period. And after starting the college also, we are continuously conduct the programs. I really thank to our authorities of our Thiruvalluvar University. Thank you one and all. And I welcome our guest resource person, Dr. P.K. Gomati from Thiruvalluvar Government Arts College, Rasipuram. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I welcome all our fellow participants. Because without them, the program would be nothing. They are actively and interestingly participating in all our Thiruvalluvar University's webinars. I welcome you all and thank you. Today is our topic is Indian writing in English. I'm going to give a brief introduction about the topic. Next, ma'am will give the contemporary poems in Indian poetry. My brief introduction to you. Which may be foreign in its origin, but it has gained immense popularity over the years and is also the most preferred language of communication among the people of various regions in India. The advent of Indian literature in English can be traced to the end of the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, when English education was established in the cities of Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta in the erstwhile British India. Rajaram Mohan Roy, young social reformist from Bengal, was the pioneer of Indian writing in English. He insisted that English should be the medium of education in India if it wanted to be included among world's nations. Although he started writing in English, he returned to his native language, Bengali, later in his life. Indian English literature refers to that body of work by writers from India who writes in the English language and whose native or co-native language could be one of the numerous regional and indigenous languages of India. Literature in India is also linked with the works of writers of the Indian diaspora born in India but residing elsewhere. Indian English literature, also referred to as Indian writing in English, is the body of work by writers in India who write in the English language and whose native or co-native language could be one of the numerous languages of Indian. Its early history began with the works of Henry Louis Vivian Derozio and Michael Madhusudan Dutt, followed by Rabindranath Tagore and Sri Aurobindo, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, and Raja Rao contributed to the growth and popularity of Indian English fiction in the 1930s. It is also associated in some cases with the with the works of members of the Indian diaspora who subsequently compose works in English. It is frequently referred to as Indo-Anglian literature. Although some Indo-Anglian works may be classified under the genre of post-colonial literature, the repertoire of Indian English literature encompasses a wide variety of themes and ideologies from the late 18th century to the present day, and thereby eludes easy categorization. There were poets who are considered the first of the Indian English poets: Henry Vivian Derozio, Madhusudan Dutt, Aru and Toru Dutt, Manmohan Ghosh. Indian literature in English actually dates back to the 1830s to Kashi Prasad Ghosh, who is considered the first Indian poet write in English. Sochi Chandar Dutt was the first writer of fiction. In the beginning, however, political writing in the novel or essay format was dominant, as can be seen in Rajaram Mohan Roy's works. Outstanding Indo-Anglican writer was Aurobindo Ghosh, whose poetic magnum opus is Savitri, an epic. In prose, his most effective work is The Life Divine, outlining his metaphysics in a rich language. Some of Rabindranath Tagore's works were originally written in English. Southern Personality and The Religion of Man. Yet another Indian writer in English was Sarojini Naidu, the Nightingale of India, who rendered familiar things with the essence of color and romance. The Golden Threshold, The Bird of Time, and The Broken Wing are her important works. Jawaharlal Nehru's prose works, The Discovery of India, and Glimpses of World History are some of the famous works. In the genre of novel, three early writers made a mark. They are the Mulk Raj Anand's Coolie, Untouchable, The Big Heart, and other novels are about the underprivileged in India. R.K. Narayan has become famous for creating the imagery Malgudi as the local for most of his novels. He has a humorous manner and an eye for the comic in the world around him. Swami and his friends, The Dark Room, The Guide, Waiting for the Mahatma, and The Man-Eater of Malgudi. A good short story writer and has written only 4 novels, but they are significant ones. They include Kandapura, The Serpent and the Rope, the Cat and Shakespeare. Besides the legendary and hugely venerated Indian English literary personalities like Rabindranath Tagore or R.K. Narayan, later novelists like Kamala Markandeya, Manohar Malkonkar, his works Distant Drum, Shadows, The Princess, A Bend of Ganges, and The Devil's Wind. So these are all the things. And Nayandara Shah ceaselessly captured the spirit of an independent India struggling to break away from the British and establish a distinct identity. Kushwant Singh, his work Train to Pakistan, Babani Bhattacharya's So Many Hunger, He Who Rides the Tiger, Music for Mowgli, or other Indian novelists famous for their writing in English. In the recent past, we have had a crop of fresh talent during the 1990s, 80s and 1990s. India had emerged as a major literary nation. These midnight's children and had become a rage around the world. Is also other Indian English literature novelists of repute of the contemporary times include V.S. Naipaul, Shobadi, G.V. Desani, Anantanarayanan, Arun Joshi, Vijayan, Alan Staley, Amitav Ghosh, and Vikram Seth. Vikram Seth wrote a novel in verse. The Suitable Boy is equally famous for the stupendous advance he got from his publishers. And Upamanyu Chatterjee has made a name for himself as a foremost modern novelist. Next, we come to Arundhati Roy, the God of Small Things, won the 1997 Booker Prize and became an international bestseller in overnight. Rohinton Mystery, Firdaus Kanga, Kiran Desai, Ardeshir Vakil, and Jhumpa Lahiri are some other renowned writers of Indian origin. And Satish Gujral's A Brush and R.K. Lakshman's The Tunnel of Time, Professor Bipin Chandra's India After Independence, Sunil Kilnani's The Idea of India, J.N. Dixit's 50 Years of India's Foreign Policy, Yogesh Chanda's Rediscovering Gandhi, and Pavan Verma's The Great Indian Middle Class, The Great Indian Middle Class are also some notable works of recent times. The mid-20th century Indian literature in English had witnessed the emergence of poets such as Nizam Egil, P. Loy, A.K. Ramanujan, Don Morias, Kalki Darwala, and Jeev Patel. These authors make use of Indian phrases alongside English words and have tried to reproduce a blend Indian and the Western cultures. While Indian poets, novelists, essayists, dramatists have been making momentous and considerable contributions to world literature since the pre-independence era, the past few years have witnessed a thriving of Indian English writing in the global market. The works of Indian authors writing in English are often on the bestseller list, and they are also incurring and earning an immense amount of critical fame. Indian English novel today, let us see that the last 2 decades witnessed an unprecedented output in fiction in India. This new fiction category stands unmatched by any other period in the growth and development of the Indian English novel. The various awards and recognitions at international levels won by this huge yields adds credibility to it. This was a situation when India was placed so prestigiously on the international literary map. The most important role is played by the international publishing firms in making these writers reach a global audience. Faber and Faber, Andrea Dishett, Heinzmann, Alfred Knopf, Rand Pickeder, and the list of international publishers, Indian English novels is exhaustive. In fact, a full list of these will read like auditory of British and American publishers too. And equally remarkable is the is the fact that today even a young Indian writer publishing his first book is readily accepted by a leading publisher abroad. Chowdhury's first novel, A Strange and Sublime Address, was published by Heinemann in 1991. The earlier condition was such as that Mulkraj Anand's first novel, Untouchable, now included in the Penguin Classics. It was left untouched by 19th British publishers in 1935 and needed a word from E.M. Foster to persuade Lawrence and it. Also, how R.K. Narayan and to wait for the green light before his long and illustrious career could begin. This does not, of course, mean that Amit Chowdhury is a better writer than Anand or Narayan, but it certainly does indicate the ready acceptance of Indian abroad nowadays. Now, the new novelists have proved their mettle by winning competitions with writers whose mother tongue was English. Several major literary awards, prizes, and distinctions will occupy pages. To note only the most outstanding of these three new novelists have won the Booker Prize, supposedly the British equivalent of the Nobel Prize. They are the Salman Rushdie for Midnight's Children in 1981. In 1993, this was adjusted the Booker of Bookers, the best novel to have to won the Booker Prize in its first 25 years. For the God of Small Things in 1997, and Kiran Desai for the Inheritance of Loss in 2006. And almost every novel by Rushdie has won an award in one country or another. Spume-bagged the Prix, the Milieu Livier Encourager in Paris. Versus the Stanek Versus was given the Author of the Year award in Germany, and the Whitbread Prize for Best Novel, Ilaran and the Sea of Stories qualified for the Writers Guild in England. The Moore's Lost Sigh was adjudged the Novel of the Year in 1996, while The Ground Beneath Her Feet was considered the best book in the Eurasia region of the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. Similarly, Rohinston Mysteries is such a long journey, which was a short listed for the Booker Prize, received the Commonwealth Writers' Prize for the best book, the Governors General's Award, and the W.H. Smith Books in Canada First Novel Award in 1991. Says A Suitable Boy won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize for the book, best book, and W.H. Smith Award in 1994. And more recently, Jhumpa Lahiri created history in becoming the first Indian author to win prestigious Pulitzer Prize in the USA for her collection of short stories. The interpreter of Melodies in 1999, the novels of Rushdie, Roy, Anita Desai, and others have been translated as well as into numerous European languages, thus setting the seal on their standing in the world of letters today. And the most versatile of recent Indian English novelists are Amitav Ghosh has produced in the Calcutta Chromosome. The Calcutta Chromosome in the year 1996. What is this in a large measure as science fiction? It won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 1997 as the best novel in this genre. Through the narrative has ordered dimensions as well as it has distinct elements of dystopia, mystery, and ghost story in it. At the center of the narrative is Rose's well-known research on the malarial parasite and the mystery novel or fiction of espionage is also gaining ground. Earlier, the only respectable example of it was Manohar Malkonkar's Spy in Amber. It was published in the year 1971. He has now written two more. Bandicoot Run in 1982 and The Garland Keepers in 1987, both against the background of Indo-Pakistan tensions. There was also an Indianness to their work. The words they used and their style of writing. This resonated with the new but growing ranks of Indians reading English literature. Their works were the forerunners to the magnificent diversity of Indian writing in English that we see today. So this is a brief introduction to the Indian writing in English, and let us pass on to the guest speakers. Before that, I would like to introduce our guest resource person, Dr. P.K. Gomati ma'am. She is working as an assistant professor of English in Tiruvallur College, Rasipuram. Ma'am has completed her UG and PG in Vellalar College for Women, Erode, and she has completed her MPhil in St. Joseph's, Trichy. She has completed her PhD in Bardiyar University. Her publications are some 23, and she guided some 26 candidates for MPhil. Her area of specialization is comparative literature, and I welcome ma'am. I hand over the session to Dr. Gomati ma'am, and I welcome you ma'am. Please come.
Participants, good evening. Yes. Let me present my screen first, then we will start the session of today's webinar.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. And I would like to submit my humble gratitude to the registrar, Tiruvallur University, and respected principal, head and faculty members of Tiruvallur University Constituent College of Arts and Science, Kallakurichi, for providing me such a beautiful forum to present my ideas on contemporary Indian poetry, an ideal medium to depict silenced issues. Poetry is hailed as the fifth Veda, and I always adore poetry. Because poetry, through his words, sounds, gestures, signs, and symbols, he always combines his ideas and feelings. He has a unique language. Through his unique, he reveals certain factors, and he conceals certain factors. By revealing and concealing, he always adds some flavor, some taste to his poetry. And the poetry always mesmerizes me, and we can call poetry as didactic because it gives you some pleasure, as well as you can say that it gives you some instruction. So we can call always a poetry as therapeutic because it has the healing effect and it gives you a curative effect. When the inner psyche of the writer is understood by the reader, sure and definitely the human values are transmitted beautifully from the writer to the reader. And today's focus is on the problems of educated middle class women, Tamil people at Sri Lanka and Singapore, Dalit issue, and the mindset of children during COVID. And also a few problems that are faced by farmers today. And let me start with Mamta Kalia, my favorite poet. Actually, I have selected 4 poets. One is Mamta Kalia, the second one is Rajati Salma, the third one is Lakshmi Kannan, The fourth one is Vatsala. Today I have an idea of introducing participants. Please mute your audio.
Who is,
Kindly
excuse
mute
me,
your audio.
who is this Sheila? Please kindly mute your voice. Yeah,
Or
yes,
else
ma'am.
remove her from the session. Or else it is disturbing. Here it is disturbing. Let me start with Mamta Kalia. All her poems beautiful, and she has a fine sense of humor. She writes both in English as well as in Hindi, and most of the poems written in Hindi are translated into English, and all the poems reveals her fluctuating mood and adaptability to the current situation, especially her marriage environment. Like her mother and grandmothers, she feels a sort of stress and she feels a sort of anxiety, and she expresses it through her poems. In entitled After 8 Years of My Marriage, she says how she was questioned by her mother, especially by her parents. The question was, "Are you happy? Tell us," was the question posted. Actually, she liked to laugh at the question, but literally she cried and she nodded and said the answer yes. But actually, what she wanted to tell them was, I was unhappy on Tuesday. Sorry, I was happy on Tuesday, unhappy on Wednesday, happy one day at 8 o'clock, most unhappy by 8:15 p.m. This particular thing, though it is bringing a smile in the mind of the reader, it speaks volumes about the stress underwent by the poet. The next poem, Inside Out, speaks about the two sides of actually, one side she feels a sort of stress and anger because of the new environment after marriage, and she says that she is gathering fire, and she feels some coolness, that is ice in some parts, because of fear. So it is the mixture of feeling is expressed by Mamta Kalia through her poem Inside Out, and she calls herself as a jackal because she has started learning the art of cunningness and also cunning behavior. She calls herself as an ass because at times she feels or she behaves like a fool, and she says that she is beautiful also like a swan. So this speaks about her loss of identity and a sense of fear of being silenced. In one of her poems, in the end, she says, why I write, because I cannot bite the people who are around me, though it looks, and though she has fine sense of humor, she likes to bring out all her feelings through her poem. Next one is, mostly I have taken all the works that are translated, especially unknown poets. I would like to introduce, I would like to bring them to focus. Usually the university syllabus covers only a very few poets, but there are a lot of poets who are yet to known, who are coming out with many issues. My another favorite poet is Kaveri. Actually, she writes in the pen name called Lakshmi Kannan. I can call her as a poet, novelist, and short story writer, but I would like to invite Kannan. She writes poems first in Tamil. She herself translates all the poems into English. That is the speciality of Lakshmi Kannan. She writes in Tamil, her work into English. Almost all the poems are very beautiful by Lakshmi Kannan. I have selected only one poem from Lakshmi Kannan, which complements the poem of Mamta Kalia's After 8 Years of My Marriage. This poem's name is Autopsy. Postmortem. A lady died and the doctors entered into the room of postmortem, and during the postmortem they found everything was in order. This is the poetic line. They say that everything was in order. That shows the perfection by the lady throughout her life, and about everything was identifiable, teachable, in short, under control. In short, under control, which speaks speaks about the submissive nature of that particular woman during her lifetime, entire lifetime. But they baffled. So the doctor's team, the entire doctor's team was surprised and baffled to see a honeycomb-like structure instead of brain. Here, the poet writes, boxes could be seen storing viscous honey that speaks volumes about her nature and temperament. She has fine-tuned herself as a sweet lady, and she provided from her brain to the family only sweetness and honey. And this particular poem speaks how a lady is rendering the entire service to her family. Next one is Vatsala. She is also one of my favorite poets. She writes in Tamil. She writes novels, short stories, and also poems in Tamil. But the part is her poems are translated by her own daughter, Srilata, into English. Srilata is also a poet and also a professor at IIT Chennai. This particular poem speaks, this particular poem has a fine sense of humor, I can say. The reason why didn't I become a poet? She lists out a lot of reason for not writing poetry in her life, though she writes some poems. She says there are several reasons for not becoming a popular poet. She says, one of my poems died when my grandmother appreciated and applauded me for folding the fine cloth, and I was mesmerized and I started folding for writing. And a couple of poems, when I assisted my mother, struggled with my brothers, and also obeyed my father. And she says, few of my poems died when I befriended the typewriter for a gold. Then I was fascinated only towards a gold chain, and I myself killed my poems. Then she is asking a beautiful question. What are you, my dear readers? Then she said, 100 poem vanished, 100 poem disappeared. When I washed my babies, when I educated my children, when I sent my son for overseas education, when I assisted my husband to receive my son-in-law, then how can I be a poet? She is asking. Then when can I be a poet? She says. Maybe after the death of my husband, or after the green cord darlings, that is her children, go back to America. She says, all my individuality, all my talent, everything vanished off because I sacrificed the entire thing for my family. And again, I would like to introduce another poet, Rajati Salma. She writes in Tamil, and almost all her poems are translated into English, and she is a very popular poet in Tamil